So I wish my lathe could get a finish like this, but yeah, this is only after filing. I'm not down to finished dimension. Actually, I paused. I filed it because what I wanted to do is I took the measurement before and after filing because I wanted to see how much filing took off of it. It seems pretty negligible, actually, like a thousandth or two. But yeah, this is another reason to learn to make gears. Is at least one of the methods of getting a finer cut on the Atlas involves, throwing another gear in the train to basically cut the travel speed of the carriage in half, and then you can get a better finish. But that's filed. I'll in a minute here. I'll do another cut, and I've tried various types of you know profiles in high-speed steel. I've tried carbide. I've tried all kinds of things. Another thing I'm going to try though is making a shear tool, which is something Mr. Pete describes and Zanudu describes. So that's also probably coming up here. So I decided to try something a little different with my tool grinding. This is that's my best approximation of the classic tool grinding profile that you'll find in your How to Run a Lathe book or your Mr. Pete videos and whatnot. Problem I find with it is that if I have it in the quick change tool post, which has this big block on the side of it, that you can't get that up into a shoulder. So I think this design was it was an optimal design for the old lantern style tool post tool holders, where you didn't have that problem, where the whole thing was very skinny that held this, and it could be turned and it wouldn't interfere with anything over here on the side, and you could get it wherever you needed it. So what I tried to do here is basically build in those same reliefs this way, that way on the back, and that way, but to keep it all as flush as possible in line here, so that when I have that big block of a tool holder hanging off the side and I try to get up in a corner, I am not bumping into my work or the tailstock or whatever. So this is what I came up with, and we shall see how it works. I also tried something a little different. I used my little miniature 1-inch belt sander rather than grinder this time. I've got to build a better table for my grinder. Right now I'm basically holding it by hand. I don't have a good way to get angles on it. The little factory shelf that it has just doesn't have good adjustability. So anyway, we'll see how this works. Alright, so the important thing to me is it's gotten right up into that shoulder. I still think I think this top edge is not as flat as I want it to be. And I could probably stand to have some more relief that way anyway. But I'll try it with a thicker cut and see what we do. Alright, since I'm already playing around with tool grinding, here's something I've been wanting to try for a long time. This is a vertical shear tool. You can, Mr. Pete's got a couple of videos on making these. Rob with the Zanudu channel has a couple videos on them. Basically the idea is anywhere along this edge right here is where you want to make contact, and it has a bevel this way so that it's shearing as it goes along. And it's to improve finish. You can only take a thousandth or so off, and it's one of the ways to try to get around the fact that the Atlas does not have a very fine feed. Its feed is 4.2 thousandths, its finest feed per revolution, which I think the South Bends do, twice that, or half that, I should say. And then, if you have gearhead lead, I don't know what those others have. There's a couple of other techniques. The guy out there with the Crafted channel, he threw another gear in the gear train, which, hey, that makes perfect sense. And once I get into gear making, I can try that. Another thing I tend to try down the road is putting an electric advance on the carriage drive shaft instead of running the gear train all the time. I think that'll be the best solution. So that way I'm saving wear and tear on my gears, and the whole thing will run more quietly. I think it'll just be a better, machining experience all around. But for right now, what I'm going to try is this shear tool. Before I do that, I just want to make sure you can really see that finish. It's not smooth. It is really just a very, very, very fine screw thread, which, I guess that's all you ever get with a lathe, but it's pronounced in the case of the Atlas, particularly with 1018. I'm told that really accentuates the problem. So that's what we're starting with. I'm not sure if I'll be able to get the camera in position when I'm cutting. We'll try. Alright, I took it back to the grinder. Felt like I needed a little more shear to my shear. It had my tool set up wrong. It's doing much better now. It's just taking a little wisps off of it at the moment though. Probably need to back it off. Start over. That looks like that's about the best I'm going to get. It is not a glass finish. There's still definitely, you know, my fingernails catching. It's like little threads, little teeny threads down in there. Focus. What are you doing? Come on. It's better. I mean, I can file that smooth really quickly and easily. But, you know, I would sure love to not have to file at all. Alright, what I'm trying to hit is 750, and I'm at 751. I just used the shear tool and got this finish right here, which is pretty darn nice. Not sure whether it's just 1/1000th, whether I want to file it or emery cloth it, so I'm going to try hitting it with a file down here, which doesn't really matter. I accidentally made this too long because I was copying something else, and I realized later that's actually way too long. This is going to go in a collet, 3/4 collet. Shoot, you don't need but an inch or two. So I got extra here. So I'll try with a file and see how far that takes it down. If it takes it down too far, I'll hit this with emery cloth only, and yeah, pretty nice. I mean, for an atlas, you know, typically very coarse, you know, finish. That's not bad. Okay, I want to point out a couple of things before I moved on with the project. One, you can see here why you know, this shaft is too long, or for this application at least, and it's unnecessary. Even when I put this in an R8, R8's only grab the first inch or so, so a long shaft is really superfluous. And I intended to make it shorter, and I forgot, and I just sort of copied this design. This is my, you might have seen an earlier video I did where I was showing this tool. It's the inspiration for the one I'm making here. This has a 1-inch arbor inside here. This is a washer. And this one fits my hole saws, and this one I'm making to fit my gear cutters. So it's got to have a 22 millimeter arbor cut out of it, and then I need to make the washers. It'll go over it, and then I'll drill and tap it for a locking bolt. So anyway, all right. So this should be shorter, the shaft here, but you know, I talked about eventually wanting to make one of these ER40 collet holders that goes over the spindle. Well, here's a situation where if I had that rig right now, this wouldn't even matter, because the Craftsman has a 3/4 inch capacity in the spindle, and this would slide right on in, no problem, if it weren't for the fact that I'm using this type of ER collet rig. So that's another good reason to make the system I want to make, where it goes over the threaded portion of the spindle. You also end up with a whole lot less stick out. You can imagine if I had just this back here, then you'd have a lot more rigidity in the entire setup, and it's just accentuated by the fact that I got this little bit of extra here, that I now have, you know, all this to have a foot of stick out. It still seems rigid enough that I think I'm going to be able to go ahead and face it and everything just the way it is. And then I'll come in with the, I'll center drill it and use the tailstock for whatever shaping I do here. Then I will, I'm not absolutely positive about my order of operations, but what I'm thinking right now I'm going to do is leave it as is, drill, bore, you know, to a certain depth here, the 22 millimeter and a hair. So I'll basically be making these washers here, and I have to draw out exactly how big they have to be. So I'll do all that, and then I'll use the big center to hold that for parting it, for at least starting the part. And I'll probably finish this with a saw. We'll figure that out as we go along here. Actually, I'll make sure of what I'm going to do before I start, because I don't want to I don't want to paint myself into a corner. And anyway, so then once I've got my washers made out of the material here, or maybe I'll just cut it off and then, do that whole thing later using that. I think it'll be better to use the setup that I have now. But then the task will be to build the arbor itself like this one, only it'll be 22 millimeters instead of 1 inch. And then I should be ready to start making gears. Well, for this part, I'll have my arbor ready. I still have a bunch of other crap I have to do. Anyway, that's what's going on.